less than 20%, you had to spread it out over 3 years. If it was 20 to 50%, you had to spread it out over 5 years, etc. So this also puts more pressure on insurers because in many cases, for some, it wasn't adequate enough, right? Um, and Malaysia, 20, um, only prospectively. So, it didn't affect the 12 million insureds that we have under group and individual coverage, right? They still maintain their 100% plan, which is one of the reasons why, claims inflation is fueled because the most popular plans paid for everything without any deductible or copay or out-of-pocket expense, right? So that's certainly one hard lesson I think that many of us have learned. Um, but the public outcry continued, and we were in the media every week, still in the media every week, and it's been almost a year. Um, this led to the government to come out with an initiative called Reset, um, which was meant to drive reform in the whole ecosystem. It's not all related to the insurers. There's also some Ministry of Health initiatives, some hospital initiatives, et cetera, in there. Some of the highlights include creation of a basic plan, um, which is supposed to be more affordable and sustainable, would include, cost containment features, lower limits, but it's voluntary. And this concern that we have is it being voluntary, how much effect will it have on the total environment, right? Um, we formed a claims database. So we now have a claims database of every medical claim paid in Malaysia going back to 2019. And we'll be getting that will be, as it develops, it'll be getting more granular. Right now, it's not as granular as we like it. It's fairly granular. You can do analysis, but we'd like to get it down to the line item and the individual inputs, right, in order to really do some meaningful analysis. We've also been mandated to publish the cost of common procedures. This has been done in other jurisdictions like Singapore, like Hong Kong, like Australia, and we looked at all those jurisdictions when trying to develop our own cost comparisons to be used by consumers. It will be by state average costs, like we'll show the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile of common procedures. Eventually, we would like to get down to the hospital level, but we're moving a little bit at a measured pace as to try to get the hospitals on board because they may not be too keen to have it at the hospital level. Some probably will, and others won't. I mean, that's the way this is probably going to come out. The other big thing is um, we're going down. We're transitioning from fee for service to diagnostic related group pricing. I think most of you would know, it's basically complex package pricing, where instead of line items, like I was in the hospital for one day last year, and I had 95 line items on my bill for one day, 95 line items. And the DRG is not a panacea, but it will hopefully level the playing field a little bit between the payers and the providers, in that the providers, instead of providing as much service as they can in order to up their revenue and profits, they have to be more efficient with the fixed price that they will get, right, for their services. We'll be starting out with the basic plan, and we hope that and then in parallel there is a national DRG committee that will be putting together a national diagnostic related group pricing, but that will take several years to get implemented. This all falls under a joint ministerial committee, so that's why the government is involved quite heavily. both the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and Bank. The one benefit that we see to the basic plan is that you're allowed to be able to pay for it from one of your accounts out of EPF. And we'll see how that goes. And insurers will be able to write sort of complementary top-up coverage on top of the basic plan. So that plan is expected to roll out in 2027. And we'll see obviously how well that's accepted, and whether it has any impact on the market. In particular, I think the vulnerable groups are the senior groups, because there's no subsidy, there's no government involvement in private healthcare premiums. So as you get older, the premiums can jump almost exponentially, from age group to age group, and including claims inflation. And so we've been battling that, for the good part of a year. And then recently, a healthcare publication did an anonymous survey of specialists and asked them questions about what issues do you have with insurance companies. So you can just imagine the kind of responses then you're going to get with an anonymous survey of doctors who over the years would have had at least a handful of cases that would have had some complications right from their medical insurance. One of the biggest challenges, accusations, is that payers are interfering with the course of treatment, and interfering with the doctor's work, right? And we believe that this stems largely from a lack of communication, and also the fact that payers will often ask questions, right, of the providers along the way. And sometimes how that's communicated and how that's received, may come across as interference, right? But nonetheless, and they were this publication was also pushing, that the insurance company denies coverage and revokes coverage. And we recently did a survey, and the data shows quite different. We have a 94 to 95% industry approval rate of what we call guarantee letters, or pre-authorization for hospitalizations. And a revocation occurs when there's a material omission at underwriting, right? And it's discovered upon admission, and this could lead to a revocation. But the results of their survey, they make a conclusion that it's rampant. And our data shows that it's like 0.00. We battled to mechanism committee, which is made up of doctors, hospitals, insurance associations, and TPAs. And each group will be able to table their issues to the group. It's also attended by the Ministry of Health and Bank Negara. And our aim is to issue best practices. We don't have authority to regulate. Our intent is to issue best practices in areas that we think can improve or address the complaints of the members of the ecosystem. Currently, Bank Negara is meeting with payers to understand the claims practices. I've attended most of the meetings where the payers go through their whole claims process, the whole variations of approvals, rejections, and deferrals, and what happens and why. They will be it's impossible to investigate an anonymous complaint. So the central bank has asked for specific cases, and and we welcome that. So let them, if there's some issues that are there, let's face them, right? If they're not, then let's move on. So we're in the middle of that now, and we keep trying to control, like I said, in the media, various types of media, podcasts, blogs, not so much the main media, although a bit the main media. Um, we're seeing something at least a few times a week, and so we have a reputation, a crisis management reputation firm working with us, and we're very busy. Let me just tell you that it takes up, out of the Life Insurance Association Secretariat, it probably takes up now about 75% of our effort and time, just to try to keep this at a manageable level. And the good news is the volume of claims is coming down. So last year, the claims inflation rate would have been low double digits. This year, it'll be significantly lower than that. It'll be significantly lower than that. But that also creates a little bit of an issue as well, because once what they call interim measures lapse, right, where they cap the premiums, companies will still have an overhang of premiums shortfalls of premiums versus what they need to maintain their medical fund. And then to raise premiums in the light of lowering inflation also creates a difficult message to communicate to policyholders. So Malaysia is very active. We're working all the time between the three associations, and yeah, we hope that that the measures that are undertaken, and the good thing again is that there is collaboration now between MOH, BNM, and MOF, and we hope that will also that the public and the critics will give us time to try to improve the situation. So that's it from Malaysia.
Thank you. We can also feel how busy you are.
You can feel it
Yeah,
in my voice.
So thank you for sharing that. Hopefully, all your efforts and collaboration with the ministry and your Bank Negara is really worth it. Any questions for Malaysia? We learn a lot from you. Thank you for the sharing. Yes, Aman.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Very informative. Has there been a similar parallel effort from the Ministry of Health to control prices like the bank controls?
Okay, that's a good question. So the Ministry of Health controls the prices of doctor fees, but they have no control over the hospital costs. So the hospitals, especially on a fee-for-service line item basis, they're free to increase their costs at will, and they do. It's interesting that in the Association of Private Hospitals own what they call fact last year. More than 50% of their profits come from pharmacy. More than 50%. Yeah. And it was because I met with the pharma people too, and they say that their average cost is 16%. And so they have the biggest markup is on pharma. So there have been attempts to try to cap prices for pharma, but they've failed every time. The Ministry of Health has had quite enough willpower or intent to try to push that through. It's always quite controversial. There has been a bit of a move to generics, but it's really on a voluntary basis. But there was one big hospital group that came out and said that they will prioritize generics. But generics doesn't always save things. We're finding that generic is just as expensive as name brand drugs because they can raise the price. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Sejal.
Sorry. I think this observer corner is quite active. So Mark, I wanted to ask if you're starting to see or have any concerns about people not renewing their policy.
Yes.
So it's policy renewal starting.
Good question. There were some numbers that were quoted recently. So we have 12 million insureds. About 8 million of those are individual policyholders. And I don't know the cutoff date, but almost 300,000 policyholders have lapsed their coverage. So it's not an insignificant number. Oftentimes this is the older population, and that they then will turn to the public healthcare system for their needs. I don't know the dates actually, but I mean probably since sometime 2024.
Yeah.
So it is a concern.
Yeah, it is a concern. Okay.
Can I ask what percentage of the healthcare is served by the private hospitals?
Good question. It's probably about 20 to 25%, maybe up as much as 30%. Although the volume of patients is disproportional for the government hospitals. I mean, they have much higher volume, but it's about 25 to 30%. And the public healthcare is been under pressure for many years for chronic underfunding, as many public healthcare systems are. They rely on funding from the general revenue of taxes. There's no special revenue source. And basically, they have to beg for increased allocations every year, and after 2 or 3 decades, you could see that they can't keep up with the medical inflation themselves. And another big part of the problem is that they keep losing nurses and specialists to the private side. And so there's a shortage of specialists and nurses. There's a shortage of nurses also on the private side, but it's more serious on the public side.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes, any other question? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll still be age rated from what they've briefed us. Okay, so the industry is not directly involved in the design on purpose. Although they briefed us, we've had at least 3 briefings now on what the thinking is. We've collated feedback for the final input. It's age rated. There's expected to be some smoothing for older ages, but not, probably not enough to say that it's community rated by any means. Yeah, it's age rated, age banded.
Okay.
Sorry, and I just say that it will be underwritten, but the standards have not been set yet, and whether there's any allowances, more liberal allowances for pre-existing conditions or other things is still yet to be decided.
Thanks. Ibu Krishna, you want to ask a question?
Sure, Carol. Yes. What is the risk-sharing method that is introduced in the regulations? Is it co-payment and deductibles?
It is. As I said, in 2024, they introduced a requirement for copay and deductibles, but only prospectively. So the millions of policies in force had no impact, right? But we're seeing, a natural result of premium increases is for people to then step down to a plan that has a deductible and co-insurance. There's also, differing opinions as to the amount of co-insurance and how much of that co-insurance, what you need to be effective, right?
Yeah.
We think that the government that the levels are too low to be that effective. I mean, there's a minimum 500 ringgit deductible and a minimum 5% co-insurance, which is seen by many of us as to be a little bit light, to actually change behavior.
So is it deductible per claim instead of the annual deductible?
That can be interpreted or can be different for different insurers, whether it's by incident or by
Annual.
annual. Yep, yep.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question for you. Uh, I want to ask you about in Malaysia, do you have a different between the outstate and the private hospital, especially the medical costs?
Sorry, the difference between
Medical costs in the outstate and between the outstate and the private hospital.
between the public and the
Yeah,
private.
public.
Oh, the public is practically free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
for many things, you might pay 1 ringgit. There may be other things that might have some small charges to it, but it's practically free. But the public health sector is overburdened and the waits are long. And often they don't have the latest equipment, that you might find in a private hospital. But the treatment of care is considered to be more than adequate in the public health sector. There's no complaints or no issues about the cost of care. It's really the overburden and the waits that people have to go through. So maybe an MRI, you might have to wait 3 months to get an MRI, right? And some people don't want to wait. And the medical insurance has grown. It's been popular probably now for about 25 years. It just gives people better access and faster care.
Okay. Okay. We all want to ask more questions for Malaysia, but because of time, let's move to other country first, and then maybe have further questions. Thank you, Malaysia. Next is Myanmar. It's
There's no
Myanmar.
representative from.
Oh no, wrong. Okay. So we skip Myanmar. So it means Philippines.
Yes, morning, Madam Chair, and to all of our delegates here. The Philippines has, I'm George Mino from the Life Insurance Association. We have 32 market players on the life insurance sectors, and only 3 of those companies are really heavily pushing medical. But post-pandemic, the big players started looking into it. The likes of Manulife, AXA, and Pru, as well as Sun Life, are pushing health and developing new products. But I would think, I don't have the data, but I would think that the more popular plan is the standalone critical illness. And our health products are normally CI or either CI or hospital income benefit. So this is something that we'd like to work with IC on how to be able to source more granular data and the level of data that Mark has actually given us. So that's something that we'd like to work with IC. But for the moment, I'll give you some basic information on where we are. So I was fortunate enough to come across a newspaper article about just a few days ago, November 23, coming out of a study by, the next slide, please. Study by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, a government agency. And it came up with the following findings. No? The total health spending in 2024 was 1.4 million pesos, or $23.765 billion. And that represents 5% of country GDP. And if it is translated into a per citizen basis, that will be around $203, an increase by 300% from $51 in year 2000. It is said that public spending drove most of the growth through the various government agencies like the DOH, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, and local government units, which increased 2.6 times from 2014 to 2024. For your information, the HMO industry used to be regulated by the Department of Health, but because of the issues being encountered, then this was transferred to the jurisdiction of the Insurance Commission. No. Next slide, please. So more information on out-of-pocket expenses. Spending rose by 1.6 times over the same period per the Philippine National Accounts, to $10.4 billion, representing a 12% increase, as posted in 2023. In terms of ratio versus total expenses, we stand at 44% out of pocket, and the PhilHealth was quite ambitious enough to set a target of reducing this to 25% in the next 3 years. And this was received by a lot of doubt, because the action by the government is not supportive of what it's trying to do. It's just reduce the budget for allocated for indigent families under the DOH by about 32 billion in 2025 budget. No? And I think if you are following news from the Philippines, might be redirected to infrastructure spending, which is the flavor of the month in terms of the scandal in the Philippines. You know. Next slide, please. Year 23, they're saying that about 1.2 million households faced catastrophic spending, which is defined as going over 40% of their capacity to pay. What's this? Ranking in the Universal Health Coverage Service Coverage Index, we scored 58, 10 points below the global average of 68%. Mark mentioned about the experience of claims during COVID and post-COVID, and in the Philippines, 2 life insurance companies who are heavily engaged in medical insurance got hit by the revenge claims after the pandemic, and affected their being able to maintain the regulatory minimum. So one had to get absorbed by another major life insurance company, and the other one had to make a capital call. No? Next slide. We have some data coming from the Insurance Commission here in terms of volume. So from the life sector, you see year 23, 24, and Q2 of 25. In terms of number of policies, these are standing numbers. So we are more or less consistently 200, a little over 200,000 policies, with number of insured life recently at 556 million. In terms of premium, in 2024, and as of Q2, we are at 52% of full year 24, so that's an indicator that we could possibly just be in the same level or even a little higher than how we came out in 2024. As I said, premiums here are coming mainly from three heavy pushers of health insurance. And something we'd like to work with IC is to put more granularity into these numbers. I would be particularly interested to see how the breakdown between group insurance and individual insurance. I would think that this is largely group insurance based. And would also like to see how the critical illness portfolio had contributed to the premium development in this business. Since the data came from the IC, there was available non-life sector data, so I'd like also to share this with you. So in terms of number of policies, there's a marked decline in Q2 2025, way below the half of 2024. They're now down to 30,000. The number of non-life players is about 55 companies. These are mostly small family-owned corporations. No? And the number of insured lives, they're at 124,000 as of Q2 25. Premiums declined in 24 by 5%, but they're now 56% half year versus full year of 2024. So coming out of the pandemic, the market players saw a potential to push for heavily more on the health insurance products. And with efforts coming from the big multinational companies, we are positive that in the next few years we'll be registering improvements in where we are compared to where we are now. That's it for the Philippines, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Any questions for Philippines?
Just wanted an observation, maybe just to make sure I'm reading it right. You know, the numbers on the enforced policyholders and premiums, etc. It looks like the market has been shrinking by a substantial amount, right? It looked like 2/3 of the policies have gone over the last two and a half years, 2 or 3 years, right? Yes. Even though premiums have been steady because of rate increases, I'm sure. Am I concluding that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
So continuing to the question, is the increase super high in Philippines?
I do not have the numbers, but it's something we'd like to work on in terms of medical inflation rate and things like that. So as I said, the life insurance industry is quite new in looking into this health and medical side of the business. And I think we're learning a lot from our colleagues from the other jurisdictions, and we can use that to move forward on how to better understand the business and therefore be able to respond to the needs of the market.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Philippines?
May I?
Yes, sure.
George, good morning. I know that in the Philippines, you have the database for the insurance, right?
Yes, sir.
Does it help in trying to manage, to control this rising health claim ratio?
Yes, the medical, it's a medical impairment database actually, generated internally sourced by the market players and shared. but has regulatory imprimatur from the Insurance Commission. So it's something that has been blessed by the Insurance Commission to be used and made known actually to the applicants when they do so. It's very helpful because it alerts a company when a new entrant or an applicant comes in so they can check from the database if there's any existing records, and that could provide a guidance for them. Since we now have also standalone medical products, so I'm not too sure yet. I have an idea about how many of these are individual plans, but if they're individual healthcare plans, therefore they can again benefit also from that database. No. The thing is, with the expansion of critical illness and hospital income benefit plans availment, we were actually thinking of either embedding into that existing system or creating another one, which will be a claims information exchange system. But we were kind of halted by a recent development in the industry where we now have an outstanding claim case at the Supreme Court where the basic issue is the interpretation of the contestability clause on the policy. I'm not sure if that clause is common to all of us in the life insurance, in your life insurance policies, but in the case of the Philippines, it is included in the insurance code, and it says that within 2 years from the issuance of a policy or its reinstatement, the insurer has the right to rescind the contract given material concealment that affected underwriting, right? So this was a case like that. Insurer died in 2 years. There was discovered material concealment, but a division of the Supreme Court decided and interpreted the clause differently, actually reversely, that death within 2 years renders the policy incontestable. So it will basically remove the right of an insurer to contest the claim. And we said, if it becomes jurisprudence, then what would a claims information system serve as in good stead, no? So we halted that project and we're awaiting the final resolution of the case. And the thing is, it was just a decision of the division, so it's still under appeal, but they posted the case decision on the website. So after that, claims that are similarly being of the same nature that are being declined, they resort to legal services, and companies are being asked about how that decision of the Supreme Court comes into the picture as far as their claim is concerned. So it's something that we'd like to be able to resolve as soon as possible. All efforts are being made, interventions, legal interventions. And as an association, what I am very concerned about is how these may affect the now, because of digitalization, a very simplified, very facilitated onboarding process. If you don't have the right to contest a claim in the future, then you will again make your underwriting process more stringent. Investigations cost could increase. Waiting time can again be longer. So the industry is very worried about the final outcome of this case. Thank you, sir.
Just a sharing to all, Indonesia has a relatively similar issue. Yeah. A case went up to the highest court in Indonesia, but it's not the Supreme Court, it's the Constitution Court. And it's not challenging the contestable period, but it's challenging the utmost good faith principle. So we have the same headache. Welcome to the club.
I have a small question about for the Philippines about the database. You have health database in Philippines?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So I would like to know if there is any cooperation between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Finance for this database, and who manages the database, the association or the insurance commission? Yes, and how is the input?
Okay.
Yes.
This is, as of now, mainly an internal database, sourcing coming mainly from the players of the industry. Of course, with the proliferation of API and the technological advancements, having access to other government data would be the biggest source, if ever. So that's something that could be looked at in the future, but at the moment, that's where we are. And in terms of inputting, the system is a web-based online real-time database, but about 12 of our 32 players having already their own internal automated underwriting applications, interfaces with the database. But at the moment, they're doing this through daily downloads of the data, which poses, while there's safeguards on security, poses a risk. So we've introduced API, and we are encouraging those 12 companies to come on board using the API.
So just the data from insurers put into the database. Can you can get access into the database of the Ministry of Health?
Not at the moment. The database is mainly coming from data sourced
from the
insurance companies. Yes.
Just insurance company. No database from
not yet.
the Ministry of Health. No cooperation.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions for Philippines? No? Okay, so looking at the time, actually we need to have a coffee break for 20 minutes, is it? 30 minutes? 15 minutes, sorry. 15 minutes coffee break. But then while we're all here, can I propose to do the photo taking first? So I'm just cautious if after the coffee break all of you are gone. So let's have a quick photo here and then let's have a break until 10:45, okay?
All right, thanks, Madam Chair, and great to see, I think, all the delegates, I think, in this room. So let me perhaps share a little bit about Singapore. So some of you might have heard me share different forums, but I'll probably just do a little bit of an overview. So I think in Singapore, I think that the total population is around 6 million or so. So Singaporeans and PR comprises of about 4.2 million right now. And I think when we look at specifically medical reimbursement type of insurance coverage, I think I can kind of look at it as probably 4 different kind of buckets of it. Obviously, the first bucket is the provided, I think, really supported by the government, kind of a universal healthcare kind of that covers easily 90% of the Singapore and PR population, where we call so-called the base level MediShield. All right. That, I think, over time has already been integrated as what we call integrated shield plan, which is purchased by individual as a individual hospitalization reimbursement plan. So for that, the penetration rate that we have, we cover about 70% of Singaporeans and Singapore PR. So that's a total of about 3 million people that we are covering with that. So 7 life insurers are eligible to actually offer plans that provide this what we call integrated shield plan coverage, right? Then, of course, I think alongside that, there's other medical plans which are global in coverages, etc. That's a proportion. And of course, the fourth bucket is really employee benefits type of plan, which are provided both by life insurers as well as general insurers, right? So if you kind of look at the majority, put it this way, right, which is the 70% that takes up the integrated shield plan coverage. Some of the latest developments, all right, in fact, the most latest one is probably going to come out at 1 p.m. today, Siem Reap time. So I'm probably unfortunately unable to share too much on that as yet. I think the Singapore experience or the Singapore story has been that it evolved to a stage whereby our integrated plan has things like deductibles, has elements of co-insurance that's actually baked into the integrated plan, right? But again, as market develops, I think that insurers have also came up with trying to provide total peace of mind and therefore provided riders add on to the coverage so that technically I think that there is a wide segment of the population who has taken up the integrated shield plan and the riders who are literally very comprehensively covered over the past 5, 6, 7 years, right? But this has also resulted in, I think, some other behavioral changes. I think like what I mentioned in yesterday's summit in itself, where I think there has been an observed pattern of people over so-called when you go into a hospitalization, are you insured, right? And if you are, and that's probably one of the first questions that's being asked, right? And whether you're insured or not, possibly the types of tests being prescribed or recommended, prices, etc., might differ, right? So with that, I think that because of the fact that the customers have no skin in the game for those who are comprehensively covered, I think that has resulted in how the claims utilization has been or going up. And notwithstanding, I think Singapore is also in a situation whereby we are becoming super age society. So with that, again, it drives up naturally, right, because of how the population is, the utilization of medical benefits. So you have medical inflation coming in, you have the age population issue that is being faced, and medical premiums obviously vary with age. So that increased cost pressure for having private insurance continues to rise. And it will at some point in time become quite bad, I think, for a number of people. So therefore, I think that there has been a fair bit of efforts at play to look at how best we should rebalance that part about does the customer or does the policyholder have some stake in the game, so that hopefully also actively serve as a bit of a checks and balance when the doctors prescribe or recommend certain form of treatment, certain form of diagnostic tests. Hopefully that there's a bit of a better conversation around that, and thereby also bringing down the claims and the utilization of that. So from that perspective, I think we are looking at possibly design changes from a coverage perspective. And that's really working collaboratively, I think, with the Ministry of Health as well on this, right? So that is one of the changes I think that will be coming upstream pretty soon. So that's one. This year in itself, earlier part of the year, because this particular system or this particular integrated shield plan is a little bit like what I think Mark is also trying to say for the Malaysia, whereby the payment of premiums of that actually is supported by our equivalent, our CPF system. So whereby an individual can tap onto the monies that we actually put away within the medical account, within the CPF system to actually pay for the premiums up to a certain limit. So you can imagine that for somebody who is young, it's pretty much cashless. Young, working, I'm contributing to it, I'm able to take out money to pay for it. So it's literally cashless. But as you age, premiums are going up. There's a maximum cap that you can withdraw. Then the pain starts to come because the incremental part got to be paid out of pocket by the individual. Right. So I think that's the dynamics of it. Earlier this year, therefore, to arm consumers with additional information, so the CPF board actually introduced this health insurance planner, right? So whereby an individual can log in to our account, look at the plan that we have bought, potentially the riders that we have bought, and it shows a projection of future premiums, I believe, for the next 30 years or so, right? So that is in the aim of trying to let what's the cost of coverage. Obviously, that with health insurance, it's not just about the cost, it's also about the coverage. But that picture, I think, highlights the cost part, while there are elements of coverages that is also being illustrated, but again, which catches the attention of the individual. So again, getting the right balance. So we continuously work with the ministry to actually say is that the message should always still be that for the customers, please, if you're looking at realigning your plan or resizing your plan, etc., or your coverages, please consult the distributor or please consult your financial advisor so that you get a balanced picture. So that's something that we continue to work with them on. On the part about another development as that I think more within Singapore is, I think, driving a lot also towards continuity of care, I think, for customers, right? So fundamentally, as a Singaporean, I might have different episodes of health at different clinics, at different hospitals. How is all this information being linked up, right? So we do have a system that is being used by largely, I think, the public hospitals and all are all signed up to it, right? Where fundamentally it's a central depository for all the medical treatments and records. So I think it's moving towards mandating that the various clinics, private hospitals are also contributing data towards this database. However, from the protection of customers' data perspective, I think that differs with some of the markets here. I think there is significant concern about whether insurers are able to access the data. And in fact, the law is going along the lines that such data, while being held, is for the purpose of continuity of care for the individual. It's not for insurance purposes to access that data. Right. So from an insurer underwriting or claims perspective, that we should not be relying on data from there. Doctors are not, there's no access into that database. Right. So it's slightly different because I did hear that I think some markets are able to access that either for underwriting purposes or for claims. So in Singapore, we don't have it at a national level that is shared underwriting or claims data into that. Right. So that is something. I think that for Singapore, I think there's also efforts, I think, in recent year to try to not just focus on that episode of hospitalization, health treatment and all, but trying to bring it a little bit upfront into trying to go into preventive. Right. So I think there's initiatives going on that tries to arrest it even before it happens. So as hopefully that to drive a better health outcome and therefore resulting in lower claims utilization over the medium to longer term. So there's a fair bit of education, a fair bit of investment poured into such type of programs. It's nowhere near perfect. I think that we all identified that there are gaps there, but I think that's where directionally we are going. That's probably the last point to share. I think that for Singapore in itself, there is also recent developments around things like genetics, right? Whereby is a person, because of your genetic disposition, potentially at risk of certain other issues, right? So, and again, I think that the government is very careful in terms of trying to say is that, well, if somebody is genetically disposed to perhaps certain condition, such information should largely not be used for, again, insurance purposes, because that's just a probability, right? So there is therefore ongoing discussions about this such information, what's the protection for customer, how it should or should not be used for the purpose of insurance. So that's an ongoing development. We currently have a moratorium in place whereby insurers are generally not allowed to use such information unless certain criteria are being met. But that is going through another round of consultation as we go into the next phase for in relations to genetics and underwriting of health insurance policies. So with that, I probably take a pause here. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Any initial questions for Singapore?
Hey, Kit, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to get the latest. A few years back, I think the government mandated co-insurance and deductible, right?
Yes.
Now, but that was prospectively at first, right? For new policies. Is it true that they now mandate for all shield plans?
Yes, so all shield plans right now would have that element, but that pertains to the shield plan. So I think the market evolved that shield plan has the deductibles and the co-insurance. Riders, which are out of that system, are able to cover the deductibles.
Oh, I thought.
So when you combine the A and B, you get quite comprehensive coverages that can be provided.
So they still allow riders to cover the deductible and the co-insurance?
As at now, yes.
As of now. So, until 1 p.m. And then I just wanted to ask, since Malaysia is going to be publishing the common costs of, or the cost of common procedures. In Singapore, you've had that for quite some time, and I've looked at the database, which is a little bit challenging to digest. Has that had any effect on consumer behavior when you look at the differences in cost between different hospitals?
Sure. I think with the fee benchmark that was introduced, it did change some of the behaviors, because that started to give a boundary of what are the expected costs, the lower, the upper. Now, it isn't restrictive, i.e. somebody can charge above it, right? But at least I think with that disclosure, I think largely you see that there's a bit of a benchmark there, right? So doctors, I think, are generally therefore, by and large, I think that also looking at those figures before they start to charge. And in the discussions that the insurers have increasingly with different hospital groups, etc., so a number of them are entering into certain agreements, right? So, and with that, I think that is also one basis which, well, perhaps for certain procedures, what's the rate to be at? So for IP plans, I think all of them also starts to have panel doctors. That was also one of the recommendations that came up years ago, right? So that panel doctor structure has been in place for quite a number of years. And in the panel doctor arrangement, fee benchmarks, etc., are also being used to guide what is the contractual agreement between the panel of doctors, right? That is continues that benchmark, or the benchmarks that are there, continue to evolve. So every couple of years, there is a team, there's a group of people who looks at whether the benchmarks needs to be adjusted. Behaviorally, so within that, there's benchmark. But what about out of that? Right? So there are some observations where within that, you probably kept kind of within it, but some of the costs might be transferred to those that are not benchmark. Because not everything is benchmark right now. So there's also discussions ongoing about should the benchmark be widened to include more procedures, more items, different type of charges. To your point, I think earlier, hospital charges, what about that? Right? So that we are likely to see that whatever is being benchmarked and shared is likely to widen further. Right? But you do see behavioral changes, but some of it is just, I'm not parking it A, I'm trying to park it in B. Right? So you do see that coming from the doctors and all as well. Yeah.
But do you think that consumers actually, do they utilize the comparison?
My guess, and that's where I'll probably hazard a guess, that if I'm a consumer and I have comprehensive coverage,
you don't care.
I probably don't care.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
Yeah, I concur with Waikit. I expect that what actually has worked is the panel and the differentiation that the insurer has said, oh, if you go to my panel of doctors, where we have already contracted the rates and we are clear, we know what to expect from these guys, so we are good. You have more benefits because you have more pre-hospitalization and this and that and higher limits. And so, but if not, you can still do it, but you have less to claim. Now that has driven a lot of people to go to steer them to the providers that the insurer knows what price to expect for the procedures. So that is the one thing that many patients go and ask for, hey, are you on this guy's panel or not? And then you see people trying to sign up to multiple, well, there are some specialists who just don't want to be, but it's okay. But many groups of doctors at least want to be on one. And then I think a few years ago, they started this extended panel thing, which means to say, if you are not on my panel, but you're on one of the other guys' panels, okay, we have this committee among us, such that I recognize not on my panel, but you're on the extended panel because you're on someone else's panel. You have better benefits, and I still give you some recognition. So that drives behavior and choice.
We're starting to see in Malaysia a few players sort of curate the journey and then offer lower premiums. So they say basically if you sign up for this plan, you have to go see a GP first on our panel. Then, from there, if you're referred to, to our list of panel hospitals, then, et cetera, then you get a lower premium. It's still quite new, so and not that many players are doing that at this point. But it seems to make a lot of sense. Sounds similar to what you're talking about.
I think from the main plan perspective, i.e. the main IP plan perspective, we have not used premium differentiation if you go panel or non-panel, but rather more of the additional benefits if you went panel. So from a premium side, that wasn't used as the differentiator. Obviously, I think some companies has also tried to do more value-adding services. But that has also become a bit of a double-edged sword, right? Because as you provide certain value-added services, over time, I think it kind of became the norm. So while it is positioned clearly as value-adding, but should you need to trigger changes to that, that has also created potential unhappiness because people have started to get used to know, I thought that was what I'm entitled for.
Right.
But actually it's not, because it's actually value adding. And we did have incidents whereby observing certain patterns from certain hospitals or groups. So you try to use that as a bit of a lever, but it also triggered something else, which is, well, I thought that I would have that, right? So you are affecting my care, the way I access my care right now. So that's also something that we kind of got to track quite carefully, which all goes back again to the point of communications and how do we try to soften the ground? How do we try to work into all that, even as policy changes and all this are coming along the way? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So looks like at 1 p.m. you will have not only one change, but a couple of changes. Okay. Looking forward to that news. Any other questions for Singapore? Otherwise, thank you, Singapore team. Let's move to Vietnam, is it? Thailand. Okay. Thailand will be online, yeah.
Yeah, Thailand will be online.
Yeah.
I'm sorry on this thing. Madam Chair, I'm going to be joining with all the TLAA and also TGIA. So both live and online. Okay. Basically, is that
Okay.
on this presentation will be with one of my colleague Nadia's. Okay. We're not gonna go by our presentation seriously on this thing because I mean more or less I think it's more into the discussions. Basically is that we're facing the same thing. Exactly is that I mean if you according to the AON statistic or survey or the release tower version, you're going to see that Thailand last year on 2024, the medical inflation is about 15.6%. This year is about 14.2%. This is from the release tower versions. I assume that, I mean, we might be lower in comparing to some of the country like Indonesian or Malaysians on this thing, but then we also in the same trend of the medical inflation on this thing. Now, you can see, I'm just lay out some of the picture here, okay? With the social security system or the government scheme that giving out to the Thai citizen, is that, I mean, if we are the worker, you know, in the, or the white collar on this thing, basically is that, I mean, we can have the social security, meaning that, I mean, we are the one who contribute, including the employer who contribute, the company to contribute. This is on the line of the, you know, basic that the Thai citizens supposed to having it. If we are in the civil service, then of course they are the kind that giving it to the civil service on this thing. And then if we, the rest of the whole country, they call the 30 baht scheme, okay? So the 30 baht scheme and also the social security is supposed to be using the primary hospital. But then if you are in the civil service, you using all the public hospital on this part, okay? Now I'm just getting into the voluntary health insurance, meaning the private health insurance on this thing. Basically, is that, I mean, 90% is dominated by the life company, and then 10%, a little bit 10 or more is dominated by the general insurance company. This has been for quite some time and still go on this thing. What we are doing is that, I mean, the concept is that we try to democratize. So basically, I mean, every age supposed to have the private health insurance on this thing. And mainly, I mean, because we are the private health insurance, so 90% are mostly using on the private hospital. And then 10% is more into the public. Now, I mean, I have to say that, I mean, the fact is that, yes, the private seem to be more convenient. But I mean, if you look at the public hospital, I mean, it's much cheaper in a way. But I mean, the quality is the last line of defense from what I'm saying. I mean, if you talking to the university public hospital, they probably are the best one. Hospital like Chulalongkorn, you know, Sirila, this is the best one. Once you are in the very critical cases, I mean, on this part, okay, both all the technology and all this thing, comparing to the private is also very good. But the fact is that, I mean, if you so public doesn't say that they are not good. They are very good, but very crowded. That's the way on this thing, because they had to handling on the civil service. They had to handle all the government first screen that giving to the people of Thai. Okay, understood. Now, we are facing the same thing,ครับ. So basically, is that, I mean, the price of the product. So the product do have about the very basic HNS that you have the supplements. You have the HB, the hospital benefits on this thing. You have the critical illness, and then you have the lump sum payment, which is very popular in Thailand. So basically, I mean, the sum insure should run from, let's say, 1 million to 120 million Thai baht, you know, on this thing. This is, so it's quite a segment that on the upper middle income to the ultra wealth on this part. And then most of the life company or the non-life company are playing with the middle income to the upper markets on this thing, okay? The pricing, the last age that can be entry is at 90 years old. So you can see, and then coverage for the whole life. because I mean it is a rider that tag along with the 99 years. Okay, on this part. And what we are doing is that yes, I mean we start to see the well, not starting. It's been the claim ratio has been raising up very high. Exactly like many countries, the colleague from Malaysians, during the COVID time, 2021 is the peak of the COVID. I mean, you don't see that much on the claim, but then I mean after the COVID, then I mean the claim is back. I mean comparing to the year before COVID, 2020, I mean the claim are more than during the COVID year. So the pain point of most of the claim are the simple disease and also the minor surgery. That is the most thing. So what we are doing is that first of all, I mean on the not we but the regulator, okay, 8th of November 21 actually is that I mean they are the new regulation called the new health standard. So I mean there are many good things, but the one of the very challenge is that I mean you're not supposed to not renew unless they are the frauds. So basically every new cases that I mean buying from since the 8th of November 2021 are having the new regulation that I mean you have to renew. You as a both general and life company. So you're not allowed not to renew on this thing, okay? Unless they are fraud or misrepresented. And then on March 2025, the life insurance, the whole industry, we implemented the so-called the renewal copay, meaning that I mean it's not the first part at the beginning, and then it's not yet going to see the impact at this moment about the claim ratio. So we launched this thing as a whole industry for the new, okay, enforce you're not allowed to have on this clause. So basically is that this renewal copay, meaning that I mean it's only touch on the simple disease. Basically is that I mean if you are over 200%, of the claim ratio and then have to be 3 times or so on this thing, okay? 3 times per policy per year, including the claim ratio is 200%. Then I mean the next year of the renewal, then you can be able to use the 30% copay, which is I mean it's not going to happen anyway, because this is only touching on the simple disease and the unnecessary IPD. So we carve out all the critical illness or the death disease out of it on this thing. Then is the another clause say that 3 times per year, and then claim ratio is this is I mean more than 400% on this part. So basically I mean this is mostly on the general disease. Now this one, the copay can be able to start on the renewal year about the 30%. But once the year end and then reviewing it at it's under 400%, then I mean it's back to the first baht or the first dollar again on this thing, okay? And then the last clause is that I mean with the 50% copay, which I mean I don't see it gonna happen anyway, okay? So the only thing that's gonna happen is probably on the general disease 3 times per year, and then more than 400% and more on this thing that could happen, but we're not gonna see it until the next year in March. But when the Thai Life Association implement it, the intention is that I mean to trigger the people not to sort of overuse on this thing, because I mean the FWA or fraud waste abuse in Thailand, I mean we not yet measure it, but we assuming it that I mean it's quite high, assuming and align with the other country. We noticed that I mean we take some of the sample in Europe, that I mean the FWA should be on the average about 5 to 7%, but not yet in Thailand that we have measured at this moment. Okay, I assume that I mean many of the ASEAN countries, if you have it, I mean maybe we can share on this thing. But what we aim to do in Thailand is that I mean we also want to measure on the FWA on this part also, and then to be able to make it on in line with the global. I assume that I mean there are some study, maybe Nadia you can share this thing that I mean but I'm not quite sure which survey house did, but then I mean it's talking about probably about 5% or so, isn't it, Nadia?
Yes, correct. I think globally we are seeing at around average of 5% in terms of WA. I think the global data shows that it's more A than F, so it's more of abuse than fraud. And in terms of the actual savings, they're looking at around 2%. So 5% detection, but 2% actual savings. So it depends on when you catch the fraud and abuse and wastage. That's where, like, the insurance company can action.
So what we are doing at this moment is that, yes, I mean, as an association, we about to have the procedure of how each company will tracking the FWA, okay, on this part. And then mainly is that, I mean, we probably have to share something, but of course not individually, just because of the PDPA in Thailand is very strong on this thing also. Another thing that, I mean, the industry in the process of talking is that, I mean, the morbidities. Of course, I mean, if you're talking about the mortalities, it's been using as an industry mortality, right? 10-year on the people, the Thai people who having the insurance along with the OIC, the regulator on this thing. But then in terms of the morbidity, it's more each company are doing it on their own on this thing, okay? So that is one thing that we are in the process of talking among the industry on the TLAA. And then if we can talk with TLAA, maybe we probably going to talk with the TGIA also on this thing, on this part, okay, and the regulators. All right. What we are doing is that since we touch on the data, is that yes, we are planning, trying to somehow to work with the data sharing. In this case, anonymized in a way because of the PDPA, but then, I mean, on the consent basis also. And then what we are doing is that, yes, we talk with the OIC, the regulator, that, I mean, for the people who having the health insurance, is that be able to doing it. And then what should be the status of the other body who are doing it on this thing. And then it should be the regulations on this part. We as a association is also talking with the health ministry, is that can we be able to sort of connect it along with the OIC and then the TLAA or the TGIA on this part to connect it on this thing with the health ministry who controlling on the healthcare network on this part. It's also the Ministry of the Digital who are in charge of the sort of data on this thing also, and then the PDPA regulation, so that we have to be able to connect it with them. What happened in Thailand is that they are the platform. One is owned by the Ministry of Health called the iClaims, okay, and that platform is the cashless claim platform, including collecting the data, but mostly they are now tagged along with the public hospital. So basically, is that one of the platform. Another platform is owned by the Ministry of Digital on this thing, which called the Health Link platform. Now, I mean, this is the two platform that having the data of the people, the patients who are the hospital, but everything is had to be connected and then had to be consented by the PA on this part. Okay, this is what we have seen in terms of the data that maybe you can share that in some of the country like Israel or something on this thing that connected with the API on this part, right?
Yes, we have seen examples from other countries where there's they have a national health database where all the I think in Israel is an HMO. So 4 HMO contributes to more than 80-90% of the healthcare in the country. So they are able to track back around almost 40 years based on population health. I think this one is something that Thailand is also looking at achieving, starting with as like Kun Sarah mentioned, that starting with the public hospital database, and then slowly joining in the private hospital, because currently the two groups of hospital utilizing different database system at the moment. The health insurance company in Thailand, the big ones anyway, offer a direct system for each of the private hospital to connect with. The health link is currently only connected with the government hospitals, the main ones. So we're trying to build that insurance system.
Yeah, so that will have to collab with quite a number of the regulators, so basically not only on the insurance, but talking about the health and also the digital ministry also on this thing, okay? There might be more actually at this moment, okay? But what happened is that, in how each company are doing it at this moment is that, first of all, I think it's aligned with many company in other countries that, we build by the portfolio. So basically what happened is, and then we go by the age demographic. We used to go by the age band, so 5 years track on this thing, but now we change it to each age band, okay? And secondly is that, what we are thinking of trying to do is that we want to do the so-called claim-based pricing. So if one person who have a very high claim, but definition of the high claim is need to set quite strong at this moment. Okay, we should be able to increase up individually instead of have to lift up the whole portfolio, which would be unfair to the people that never claim, and then it could create a lot of the drama into the social media on this part also. Okay. We also thinking that if we can increase inflation, but not double digit, actually probably about 5-8%, on every year, that could be more or less sustain the product on this thing also, because the medical inflation is very high. But this thing, we start to talk with the regulator, but of course it's not going to be that easy at this moment. What we assume is that maybe we have to do one-time increase first to catch up with the medical inflation, which might be shock the people. So we have to be very careful on this thing. Or else we do it at least like 5% or 8%, on this thing on every year. So let's say that, for example, let's say the age 50 this year will be differently from the buying from the age 50 next year. Okay. So that's another thing. Okay. Now, in terms of the deductible and copay, most of the hit product, so basically 0 to 11 are mostly deductible at this moment. Okay. Not many company want to offer the first part because it's very easy to lose. Now, for the copay, yes, this is not the renewal copay, but talking about the copay on this thing. Yes, there gonna be many companies that start to offer the copay, but still, they're still gonna offer the first part also. So not gonna be like copay every company across the board at this moment. Okay, because it need to be. It's very sensitive, and then it's very sentiment, to do on this thing. Okay, but that's what we do. Now, in terms of the operation, yes, most of the company, the healthcare that connected with the life are the cashless. No need to reimburse, But what we are doing is that, we start to develop not develop. What many company are doing is that, yes, we do have the pre-authorized, we do have the pre-admission, we do have the concurrent review on this thing, because if you go for the discharge at the end, it's very dramatic, on this thing. Maybe Nadia can explain a little bit more on this thing.
Yes. So as Kunsara mentioned about the problem of simple disease, where it's I think it's quite unique to Thailand because we don't have the the primary care kind of a network as of now. Customers can go directly to specialists, and a lot of customers, especially individual, don't have an OPD coverage, so they do have IPD coverage. And when they go to hospitals sometimes, or even the customer themselves, often request to be hospitalized in order to get the reimbursement. So what we have put in place through this renewal co-payment program is to really deter them from the non-necessary hospitalization claims. And this is the list that shows what constitute as simple disease and what does it mean to as an indicator of those simple disease, because we do not include those with comorbidity. So right now, what we have done is a lot of insurance companies have implemented a so-called pre-admission program. It's not the same as pre-authorization. So pre-authorization is for surgical procedures, those necessary procedures before the procedure itself. But pre-admission is to kind of put in a gateway so that hospital and customers understand what are the criterias and make sure that they meet the criteria. So for example, body temperature has to be above 38.5 with pulse over 120 with kind of other co-symptoms that incorporates in the mix. And then what a lot of companies are also doing is also to put in place and discuss with the hospital themselves to put in place a UR nurse, so utilization nurse, to help do the post-admission to make sure that what is being put during the pre-admission information kind of adds up and tallies with the customer or the patient's history post discharge. So these are the programs, and then all of these data are being kind of studied and also to kind of put in place a continuous improvement program. And I think so. Yeah.
Nadia, because of the time, so we try to wrap up on this one. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. And then what happened is that, I mean, we also, many of the companies start to do the so-called the preferred provider. Even, yes, they are the hospital network or this thing. But the fact is that, I mean, now we are talking about the criteria. So the life company is the one who set up the preferred provider on this thing. So both, I mean, the preferred provider will be the criteria that, I mean, what should be the right on the price. I mean, we do using the DRG on this thing. We using the ICD-10. But the fact that, I mean, some of the private hospital doesn't use on this thing. And then, I mean, if you dig down into the ICD-9 or ICD-10 on this thing, it's not very detailed. Some of the hospital are very detailed. So, I mean, what we are doing is that, I mean, the whole industry will develop our own ICD-10 and on this part, and then align with the Ministry of Health, which is, I mean, mostly using align with the university public hospital also on this thing. So that, I mean, we have to stand on this part to dig down. Now the preferred provider is start to launch this year by each company. Mainly is that, I mean, yes, we want to be able to still having a very best, the good standard, with along with the needed on the healthcare, with what the align with the Ministry of Health on this thing. But then in line with how the cost should be paid on this thing also. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Is also the concept of the EPO. So meaning that, I mean, you go with the group benefit on this thing. There are some of the company who doesn't want to be able to increase up the price too high, like 50% or 20 or 30% on the average put year on this thing. So basically, that, I mean, they prefer that, I mean, why don't you select the EPO, the PPO to tag along with the company on this thing. This is mostly on the group benefit of group health, okay, on this part also. So that's is the thing that Thailand are doing this thing. And the last thing is that, yes, we need to educate on the health literacy and the prevention and preventive on this thing. So we're working on the contents with the hospital who are the university and along with the Ministry of Health and OIC, and then start to giving more and more on the content that are the right into the both online on the social media and content on the on-site also. Okay, so that's what happened to Thailand at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunsara and Nadia. So just one question, because you have a lot of good things to be included in the cost containment, yeah, like simple diseases, things like that. Does it mean that in the underwriting stage, then the customer needs to understand all these details? Is that how you sell to your
Yes,
customer?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. So basically, I mean, we work with our intermediary, mostly agent, and keep update on this forum and then the contents. Both the bank insurance, also, the broker. Most of the sales are done by the agent and the banker in Thailand, and talking about the health insurance also at the moment. So what happened is that, I mean, as a company, many of company do grouping their staff to be as a helping hand at the bank assurance. But because realistically, I mean, the bank doesn't have the time to explain the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we tag along this thing. Although that, I mean, the Thai the bank insurance in Thailand seem to be like the seamless integration. But now we start to using our own staff that have the knowledge of the health to go along with them, just handheld together at this moment. The agent are quite knowledgeable on this thing, but we do test a lot on this thing, and of course you have all the welcome call by law, right? So basically that's the part that, I mean, we explain a lot with the health insurance on this thing.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, if there are any question, maybe I can limit just one question for Thailand. No? Okay. Thank you so much, Kun Sarah and Nadia, for the
Thank you.
presentation. Let's go to the next country, which is Vietnam. Okay.
First of all, I would like to send greeting to Madam Chair and everybody in the meeting today. And I would like to introduce our team. My name is Vân, and I come from the Insurance Association of Vietnam. Let's start with the overview of non-life insurance in the Vietnam. Also, Insurance Association of Vietnam manage over 88 insurance business, including the non-life and life insurance and reinsurance and insurance broker. And as for the business performance in the non-life insurance in Vietnam, I focus on the healthcare insurance is the first ranking in the non-life insurance in the Vietnam. I want to say about the business performance in 2024 and 2025. About the healthcare insurance gross premium is about the 28,000 billion Vietnam đồng. Market share is about 36%. Is the number is the first ranking. It's about the loss ratio is about 60%. I think that is high. And so currently, Vietnam insurance market have many non-life insurance company, but to focus on a top 5 non-life insurance company implement the healthcare insurance. Leading the market insurance in the Bảo Việt Insurance Corporation in the Vietnam. In general, healthcare insurance loss ratio chain of the healthcare insurance, non-life insurance in Vietnam is high, especially after the pandemic COVID-19. The main reason is the medical inflation cost. I would like to say some about the medical inflation cost in Vietnam. Medical inflation in Vietnam is expected to remain major issue in the 2024 and 2026 due to the rising cost of the equipment and cost of pharmaceutical and the cost of the supply, as well as the demand for the advanced treatment. ongoing care and the rising chronic disease and suggesting the upward pressure on cost of living continues. Besides, the main drivers for this trend include a higher demand for the private healthcare and investment advanced technology and the addition on new the comprehensive benefit like telemedicine and telehealth. So that's the medical inflation in the Vietnam, similar to the Thailand. Is a big headache to many social fields, with the medical costs increasing at a rate higher than the general inflation. Approximate 10% for the medical inflation in the Vietnam. This is imposing significant pressure on the underwriting margin and putting benefit sustainability at risk. I want to say that especially in the Vietnam, regulatory trend effective July 2025, almost require the insurer to standardize healthcare insurance term and condition and premium rate. The factors are likely to significantly affect healthcare insurance pricing. And I want to focus on some medical inflation affect the healthcare insurance. Focus on the inpatient and outpatient. Inpatient side include the hospital room, and both charges in Vietnam are recognized by insurer as being the top component. And the price increased by the average of the 28%. I think that especially after COVID pandemic, 19 COVID pandemic, there are many more claims relating to respiratory system and pulmonary and pulmonary and muscular and cancer and accident HD. Although the outpatient is focused on the drug and the medicine. Only the rank third out of the top five costs. Drug cost inflation in Vietnam is fueled by the fact that the 90% of the national pharmaceutical expenditure is reliant upon the imported goods. Further compounded by the currency fluctuation because I import the medicine and drug from the foreigner. That price increase from the 25 and to the 30% depending on the kind of medical facility, private or public, basic. So that's I want to take the solution for the impact of the medical inflation. Firstly, the premium increase in the end of contract and expiry date. We revise the contract and increase the premium based on the loss ratio and the age and something like that, and increase the premium. Secondly, I focus on the co-payment ratio for specific treatment and medical facility and hospital clinic, and particular for children from the under the 4 years old and certain condition. For example, co-payment for young children and pregnancy and private medical facility and or the reducing the sublimit or limit for the benefit, for example, outpatient and inpatient in the benefit of the insured person. Thirdly, I focus on the emphasis on the cost management. Vietnam, we focus on the manage the costs, including the broker and the commission and the business costs and loss ratio. But the total cost, that means the combined ratio is below the 100%. This is the 100% based on we calculate the premium and the benefit, the condition to revise the contract for the insured person. The next, investment in direct billing. Bảo Việt mitigate the effect of inflation and improve the customer experience by offering a direct billing network. This service allows the insurer to manage payment directly with hospital and clinics, reducing upfront costs for policyholder. We can connect the hospital in the direct billing system. I can negotiate the price of the hospital and reduce the medical cost for the insured person and the insurer, and control the loss ratio. Besides, I want to focus on the central model. I think the central model is the most important in the Vietnam. The model is of the central data management from underwriting to how insurance compensation is deployed in some top insurance companies, such as the lead insurance, to control compensation and increase business efficiency. Before the issue the policy wording, we can calculate the premium and check the condition to manage the whole country in the Vietnam, not reduce the premium and not open the condition and the benefit and control the loss ratio. I think the centralized model is the most important in the Vietnam. In general, I think that the method of the control the loss ratio and the medical cost, medical inflation cost, I want to focus the co-payment and reduce sublimit and something like that. And the supply side and the most common initiative was restrict specialist asset to general practice referral, telemedicine and second opinion service are the emergence them. I think that into the future, managing the costs and improving the expenditure and the optimizing plan design and delivery will require not such engagement of all the key stakeholders like insurer and like employer, but also the creation of new digitally integrated health ecosystem with the help to control the cost, risk, and management expenses. I think that in the meeting today, I want to everybody say some the solution about the controlling the loss ratio in the Pacific, in the Asia, especially the Vietnam and Thailand. I think that the Vietnam, similar to the Thailand, loss ratio is high. And I want to everybody say some experience and solution for the controlling the loss ratio. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Vietnam team. Any questions for Vietnam? And surely, yes, we can learn from each other, Vietnam team. Okay, if not, then I think, yeah, it's Indonesia. I'll be quick. So yesterday in the panel, discussion. I already touched most of the content of the deck for Indonesia, but then let's see what else can I share. Do you have the Indonesia deck? Indonesia presentation. And while getting the presentation, after this, we will have Sejal sharing your global insight and Dr. Amar. Hopefully you can limit your presentation in short, maybe 5 minutes each. And also after that, we need to decide what items are we going to share in the tomorrow plenary meeting from this session, okay? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. This is the presentation for Indonesia. Yeah, you can go further. Next. So medical inflation in Indonesia is still high. In the left graph, you can see that the low graph is global medical inflation there, but then Indonesia medical inflation is up there. So quite far from the global medical inflation and still higher from the Indonesia economy inflation, right? So we still have challenges to manage that. And then in the right-hand side, it's actually the life insurance data. Actually, the health insurance in Indonesia is sold by three groups: life, general, and also Sharia. But then for this graph, this is only for life. We compare like premium versus claim, and you can see that we're still struggling because it's like more than 100%. Okay. Next slide. So with all this, the OJK, our regulator, is very much concerned on the sustainability and how health insurance should continue, because it's a very important item for the overall national health expenses. Imagine if private insurance are losing money, then the out of pocket and the national security body in Indonesia will also suffer. So that's why our regulator have drafted some boxes here. Actually, the regulation has already been issued in May, but then it got some challenges. One of them is from the parliament, because especially for the co-payment, which is not usual. It is like the first time the regulator is mandating co-payment, so that particular item was very much challenged by the parliament, so that then there is some revision. But then just briefly on this regulation, it contains about medical capability, which means that the insurance company needs to have medical capability in-house to ensure that all the underwriting and claims processes is sound enough. Waiting period is being standardized. Claim performance report, it's for the group business. So group players need to have this kind of report to ensure that premiums, claims, loss ratio is documented, and the next insurance company which is going to take over the portfolio will have this information. And then utilization review. Every company selling health product needs to have a utilization review documented, to ensure that the standard quality is there, clinical pathway evaluation is met, and also the medical efficacy is being met. We need to also be mindful of the customer protection. There is another regulation on customer protection, but it's a reminder that this health insurance regulation needs to also be mindful about customer protection, including any changes, we need to notify the customer X days before it happens, things like that. In the middle column, digital capability. We require to have the capability to transfer data between insurance company and hospital. Risk management, like you can imagine, with all that challenge in the claim ratio, then companies need to adjust the premium. So it is allowed by our regulator to make the adjustment. Luckily, for now, there's no cap, like what Malaysia was saying. So there are companies increasing premium up to 100%. And then the next is co-payment. So co-payment, this regulation is still in the draft stage, but then most likely later when it is launched, there is no mandate that co-payment needs to be there. So every company can have a co-payment, a product with co-payment. However, there has to be also a product without co-payment. Okay, so finally that's the like win-win solution lah. And whenever an agent or a broker or a bank explain about health product, these without co-payment and the with co-payment needs to be explained together. So the customer needs to know what is the impact if I take co-payment and if not. Okay. And then there is also cooperation with stakeholders because this overall health ecosystem needs to be supported by everyone, right? Provider, TPA, the National Security Body, and Ministry of Health, etc. The company needs to also do health education and campaigns to ensure the preventive, efforts is being highlighted to the customer. And the right-hand side is medical advisory board. It's a new thing, so it is mandated for every company selling health product to have a board, which consists of few specialists, where the company can like consult the result of the utilization review, as well as if there are like new medical techniques or different, dispute cases, things like that. Okay, and then medical checkup is highlighted there to ensure that company, whenever there is a risk or a highlight in certain age band or geographical or whatever, then medical checkup might be the solution to be considered. And COB, I think I touched COB quite extensively in the late panel discussion. So it is mentioned that every product, every health product sold must include the COB feature. So this regulation is scheduled to be launched within this year, and the transition period is 3 months, and it will be enforced not only for the new business but also for the existing portfolio with a certain transition time. Okay, so this has heavily made us busy in the industry because a lot of things are new and needs to be implemented right away. Next slide is I think about the COB scheme. Yeah. Okay. So just briefly, on the 6th of October, the MOU has been signed between two hospital associations, the private and government hospital associations, and 3 insurance associations, Life General and Sharia Takaful. Okay. So this MOU will be later followed by an agreement to be signed between each insurance company and the hospital, mentioning all the items about the COB, right? So the COB will be like the 2 boxes there, Scheme 1 and Scheme 2. So if an Indonesian, logically, every Indonesian has to have the BPJS, which is the National Security Body. Yeah. So, but if an Indonesian would like to upgrade 1 room up from whatever is the eligibility in that social security scheme, then there is a choice. Scheme 1, using referral system to from the primary healthcare up to the hospital, and then when in the hospital, then the customer, the patient can say, I want to up 1 room up, and then the charges will be maximum 250% of the social security body tariff. So there is already a tariff which is currently using the case-based group, but then we'll be moving to also the DRG, the diagnosis-related group. So there is a cap, a ceiling, cannot be more than 250, and from that 250, 75% is paid by the social insurance, and private insurance is 175%. Okay, and it is mandated also that clinical pathway needs to be used there. Medical evaluation, medical efficacy is also mandatory. So that is Scheme 1. Scheme 2 is if a customer do not want to go via primary healthcare referral system and then go directly to the hospital, then the customer can say, yeah, my company, my insurer have this scheme. So I want to use this scheme where it is still maximum 250% of the tariff, but all of it is paid by the private insurance company. Okay, so with this scheme, from the private insurers, we are trying to push the hospitals to be more adhering to the clinical pathway and medical efficacy. With that 250%, hopefully is sufficient as a ceiling, because currently private insurance companies are paying maybe 3,000 times of the tariff. So we're trying to push that to 250%. Okay, so that's basically the COB. There are some paperworks being prepared, etc. But then hopefully the agreement can be signed. The Ministry of Health is issuing a new regulation to support this, and after the regulation is out, then our regulator will issue the previous slide, the regulation of the previous slide. Okay. Next slide is the last slide, I think. So this is just to tell you, to inform you that the Indonesia, the Ministry of Health have a platform. It's called Satu Sehat. I think yesterday I mentioned that too. So with this platform, hopefully it is integrating multiple data sources. The medical records of the patient is also there. The payer can log in there. The national security body is also there. So hopefully, electronic medical report is available. We can also see the other data, of course, with standard and security, good protocols. Also medical checkup, because Indonesia is implementing a free medical checkup for everybody. It can be seen also there. And also as a logistic and inventory control for the tracking of medicine and vaccines. So hopefully with this, it can open up our access, what we need for the data of the patient, so we can directly see if a customer from insurance A is being hospitalized here, then the insurance A can directly see what is happening with them. And also if it is a COB with another company, the other company can also see. So this is just a start. The Satu Sehat platform is already there for vaccine purposes. It is now already upgraded for the hospital to log in all the data, and hopefully later payer like us can log in there also. I think that's it from Indonesia. I think this is my last slide. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for me? Easy question for me, difficult question to my partner.
Yeah, this is an easy
Yes.
question. On the tariff,
Yes.
250%, does that mean that the hospital charges are capped at 250% of, right?
Yeah.
And you said up to,
250.
right?
Yeah.
And you said prior to that, it could be many times more.
Yes.
How did you get the hospitals to agree to?
It is difficult. So previously, I think last year, there is already a regulation where that 250%, it was 200%. And the Hospital Association was rejected that. And then they appeal, and then finally hopefully they really agree with that 250. There are a couple of cases where they would like considerations like ICU or complex cases. So we said that, okay, so for those kind of some list of cases, we are open to discuss. But then for the others, you need to follow the 250. Yeah.
The way to see it, allow me to add, Madam Chair.
Sure, but
Yeah, the way to see it is that this is the concern of every stakeholder related to health expenses in Indonesia. That OJK is surely on our side, because it is not good to see that the cost of the premium for health insurance going up. Ibu Dian has mentioned earlier, I think, Madam Chair has mentioned that some life insurance companies in Indonesia earlier this year and even from last year at renewal time, because basically health it's yearly renewable, right? Increased the premium by 30, 40, 50%, even 100%. And this is not sustainable, right? The concern of the Minister of Health himself is that if later on customers, citizens of Indonesia cannot afford any longer to buy health insurance coverage, and if life insurance of general insurance companies pulling out from underwriting health, then everybody will go to the National Health Social Security, and it will create a big deficit to the Social Security. So this has to stop. So we got the backup, the support from OJK, insurance regulator. We got the backup from Minister of Health, right? Well, the position of the our National Health Security, Social Security itself, starting from last year, started to experience or to undergo some deficit, right? So in reality, our BPJS Kesehatan, our National Health Social Security, is not really keen to support this, because the way they see it, if we allow this, if we provide the full support, then we will pay more. Initially, they expect policyholders from private insurance companies not to claim to National Social Security, so that it will take out some financial burden from their side, right? So that's their view. So everybody has some concern here. Yeah, us we have concern. BPJS Kesehatan has concern. Private hospitals they have concern because they have invested, right? And I think the slides of Thailand earlier, reason behind medical inflation so high, it's really interesting. But probably I can add one more reason behind that, that some private hospitals recently established is using bank's loan. So we need to add the additional percentage of the interest rate, right? In order for them to make up their IRR or expected return, things like that. So what we saw, Ibu Dian has mentioned, that when we took some anomalies, claim anomalies from some of our members, then for exactly the same disease, same hospital, same disease, same treatment, yeah, then the hospital charge X based on Indonesian DRG to the National Health Social Security, but could charge more than 30 times of the DRG to private insurance company. This is anomalous. Usually it's only 3 times or 4 times, but some cases more than 30 times. I think the highest found by Ibu Dian and the team was 34 times. So can you imagine that, suppose two guys, same diseases, come today to the same hospital, treated by the same doctor. For this guy, hospital accept to be paid by the National Social Security X rupiah, but for the other guy, 30 times X. Right? So this is our concern. Yeah. So finally, Mark, that trying to give additional explanation to your question to Madam Chair, that this is a win-win, right? Last year, it was 200%, of course, accepted by Insurance Association, accepted under force probably by hospital association, but nothing happened because all hospitals didn't want to accept, right? And National Social Security was, I would say, a bit reluctant. But now the scheme is that 250%. So there is a higher probability that hospitals would accept. But now, why our National Social Security accepts full heart? Because they do not need to pay 100% of the coordination of benefit from the DRG, our DRG, but just 75%. So they win also. So in this case, I think we all win. Hospitals win because rather than instead of 200%, they will get paid 250%. Our National Social Security wins because instead of paying 100%, they will pay 75%. And us, we win because those who go directly to the hospitals in the past, previous draft, cannot or couldn't enjoy COB, coordination of benefit, but now they can. So under the new scheme, everybody wins. And the agreement has been signed 2 months ago, yeah, Bu?
Yeah,
2 months
October
ago,
6th.
in front of everybody, including the minister himself, just now to see how many hospitals would be keen. But the idea of our high rank officers is that if National Health Social Security combined with private insurance, we are the largest payer to the hospitals. So normally, if we are on one side, then we may have something to say to the hospitals. Let's just see, and probably next year in Indonesia, we can share with you the result, the early result of this new scheme.
Yeah.
Hope this answered.
Thank you,
Can I
Pak
just,
Budi.
yeah, can I just clarify one thing? So if I go into the hospital and I have private insurance, still some of the cost goes to the Social Security and some of the cost goes to the private insurance, is it?
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's shared, I see.
Now, yes. Under the previous scheme, it depends. If you go the managed care system, meaning that you go first to the general physician, if not solved there, then you go to hospital, then it was covered by both parties, private and national security, social security. But if you went directly to the hospital last year, our National Health Social Security would not cover.
I see.
But now, this is the area where insurance industry wins. But now, either you go through the general physician or you go directly to the hospitals, the coordination of benefit scheme works.
Okay, okay, thank you.
I think this is a really, I really enjoy this presentation by Indonesia. And I want to commend you all that for showing this positive example, because we in Singapore have been trying for a long time and we understand that, and we're now working on the principle that, hey guys, this problem is really complex. And to fix this problem, we need all the stakeholders in on this together to reach a solution that all of us are going to accept and solve. And I'm very pleased to see a positive example that happens, because at least from our side, we know if we try to fix things by parts, when we fix this part, the problem will show up itself somewhere else. And now we are trying to do what looks like you have already achieved. So congratulations.
Thank you for the positive.
Okay, so okay. Okay, so with that, I think the presentation from the countries are completed. Before I give Ms. Sejal and Dr. Amar the floor, let me remind that we need to collectively discuss the issues to be presented tomorrow in the plenary meeting, right? Just from my perspective, probably everybody was talking about universal healthcare coverage and how it can partner with private, right? Either on a top up way, and then we learn from Singapore comprehensive, but then there are challenges and change of behavior. So I don't know if whether this topic can be also brought tomorrow, that we are interested, or we want to understand more, or we want to implement whatever changes to, or we propose to our country, what kind of top up or product can be proposed, probably to improve or to have a win-win solution, not only for private but also for the public. Maybe that's one. Second, on the cost containment activities, I think it needs to still be there, right? Because a lot of you mentioned about co-payment, simple diseases, check, probably that is also the second item. But then let's wait until Ms. Sejal and Dr. Amar share, and then we come back to that topic. Yeah. Okay. So Ms. Sejal first.
Yeah, can we switch to my slides, please? I think I'll compress my 20 minutes into the 5 minutes by, you all have I think we'll have access to the full presentation. Maybe if we can switch to my deck. Yeah. It's in the bottom row, second to last one. Oh, yes, number 5. Thank you. So I was asked to talk about preparing, you guys being all prepared for tomorrow's risk, but I think what I'm going to do, I put the next slide, please. Today's realities, tomorrow risk. And I'm just going to focus on the first one, on the unsustainable UHC, because that's really been the crux of the discussion I've heard. The other two is there for your reference, but in the interest, I think it's very, and I'll quickly go through it. I think let's just continue having the discussion. Next slide. So again, everything is on the rise: aging, chronic disease, environmental health related events, geopolitical tensions is also a part of it that we're not taking into account, the pressure that puts on healthcare systems. Next slide. Okay, so I used actually Gemini to create this figure. Universal health coverage is often shown as an umbrella that is protecting the population, but what we're seeing is that there's a lot of storms with the chronic disease, aging populations, disrupted supply chains also do matter. And I think it's really under threat. And the reason I bring it up in this context today is, next slide, is because governments have made this promise, not just at the MOH level, but at the head of state level in many instances. There is tremendous pressure to fulfill this promise of healthcare for everybody at a cheap price. And once that commitment was made, it's very hard to rescind that commitment. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I started talking about what is the role of private insurers in UHC, if I talk to the World Health Organization, World Bank, and others, they said, private health insurance is just a luxury good. It's for high-end markets. Doesn't really have a role. They didn't see a role. And now I think, as you all see, whether you like it or not, whether you see it as an opportunity or something you don't want to touch, you're being pulled into that discussion because JKN has already been So I think for countries like Vietnam, Thailand, even Cambodia, which I read has 93% universal healthcare coverage, that pressure is going to be there. So I think in that sense, discussions like these are important. Sorry, I'm not even referring to my slides anymore. Next slide. Let's see. So again, with this new COB scheme, I think the person that was interviewed in there said, okay, we have the COB scheme, we play our part, but how sustainable is it for us as insurers? This is going to be evaluated. But again, this is as much about public opinion, PR, and as it is about the numbers. One thing that I didn't hear in today's discussion or yesterday, we've talked about DRGs, is to what extent are you all insurers looking at HTA assessments? So ACE in Singapore, MATAS in Malaysia, HITAP in Thailand, is that something that insurers are proactively also following the government's lead? In Singapore, the IP plans or the riders, had a different maybe list of cancer drugs, and that's been now standardized public and private. Are there other areas? Are there other areas where the private insurers either competitively can show that they differentiate and offer above and beyond what the government offers? Or do they fall in line and say, okay, we follow the government's guidance on what is exactly cost effective? So I think HTAs is something else that maybe you all should look into as to what extent do you follow the government's guidance? Do you go above and beyond for market competition? Do I have another slide on this? Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so I think it's really my feeling is because again I've been asked about this since 2016, 2017, 2018, maybe supplemental, maybe not supplemental. Now I think there's really just a point where there's no choice but for governments to start thinking about private insurance. I heard at the IFC conference in February, the Ministry of Health Indonesia was talking about 60% of healthcare financing financed by private insurance, which sounds kind of crazy. And Dr. Dian has already mentioned that they've changed the targets. For the first time, and I didn't think I would see this day, the Asian Development Bank has now created a new stream of work on the role of private insurance for achieving universal health coverage. So I think even the global international community are realizing that governments cannot do it alone. But I think you need to be active participants in that dialogue. Otherwise, you'll be there with your numbers and decisions will be made before you. So that's all I'm going to say. Again, my last two risks were related to climate and health-related events, and AI, cybersecurity, and digital privacy. But I will just leave the slides to you all, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Turn it over to any questions, and then to Anwar. Yeah, Amar, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Ammar Mahmood. I'm the General Manager of MedImpact International. MedImpact is a pharmacy benefit management company, PBM company. It's the largest independent PBM in the United States, based in San Diego, California. I wish to first of all thank Dr. Dian Budjani, a very energetic, dynamic chairwoman, and I thank every single member of this distinguished community and committee for inviting me to this meeting. Dr. Dian, may I stand up and present? Maybe it's easier. Thank you. Thank you. I think we're beating the horse to death, really, with this meeting with inflation, medical inflation, but just a few points about 2024, 2025, 2026 from Mercer, Benefits Administrators. They mentioned 6 of the ASEAN countries, and what's notable is it's highest across the whole world. If you take out the US, you'll see that the medical inflation across the world this year is going to be, 10%, while across ASEAN it's up to the 17, whatnot. The interesting thing is that the normal inflation, non-medical, it's higher across the world compared to ASEAN. Very strange. So it's like really diverging. I think one of the slides, one of the presenters mentioned that. Out-of-pocket payment. The WHO standard should be 20%. Anything above that is considered way too high. And I think across ASEAN, 3 countries, Singapore, Brunei, and Thailand fit that criteria. Otherwise, out-of-pocket payments are really, really high, significantly high. I think many of the distinguished speakers already alluded to that. The Vietnam delegation was very eloquent about highlighting the out-of-pocket spend. Also, the 43% of their own medical expenses are now as out-of-pocket, way higher than the 20%. Importantly, it's medications. So my focus is on medications. And Mark, I think you hit the point there that drugs, pharmaceutical industry are playing a major role in medical inflation, not just across the world. And you all know about the US, but they're creeping up on ASEAN for sure. This distinguished study from northern Thailand, it's from Chiang Mai, one of the large tertiary hospitals up in the north. And they've looked at the spend on medications for a category of patients who are diabetics, who happen to end up in hospital with hypoglycemia, low blood glucose. Drug spend ranged from 53 to 84%. That's a very hefty bill on any insurer or any social insurance scheme. Going back to the basics, any claim is all about price and utilization. Unfortunately, governments across the world, they focus only on price. They think they've got a good deal. They've sat across the table with the pharma company, and that's it. But there's another component, it's utilization. To the credit of the Trump administration, he managed this month to cut down prices by 70 to 80%, which nobody has done before. But wait till you see the utilization in a few years, because pharma companies will not give up that profit. What PBM is, pharmacy benefit management, is basically endorsing rational drug use. And rational drug use is a term coined by the WHO back in the 80s, 85, where they basically said, prescribing rationally means giving the right drug to the right patient for the right illness and the right duration, quantity of supply, and also in the right price. So if there's a generic, you give the generic rather than the brand. Oxford University Clinical Research Unit conducted a study in Vietnam, and they found out that 1/3, 1 in every 3 antibiotics is inappropriate. It's not needed. And it's contributing to antibiotic resistance, antimicrobial resistance, which is now a pandemic across the world. Believe it or not, the WHO thinks that by 2050, the number of people dying from bacterial antibiotic resistance will be more than cancer. Even a first-generation antibiotic doesn't work now in Vietnam. They have to go to the 3rd and 4th generation. Well, if you go to England, Norway, it still works. Malaysia, this study was done in a large hospital. In Malaysia, they looked at the utilization of PPIs, proton pump inhibitors. Some of you may recognize the purple pill, Nexium. It's for gastric upset from AstraZeneca, which has been genericized for the past 10 years. They're still being used, amazingly. So these are inpatient. People stayed in the hospital, and they found out that 1 in 4 gets a PPI, proton pump inhibitor. 60% of those got it in the hospital. They didn't have it before. And 46% were inappropriate. There's no indication. If you go to the leaflet of the drug, the FDA has never gave a label for it to be prescribed for that illness. So it's completely inappropriate waste, basically. Adding insult to injury, this study 2025 from Indonesia, for you, those of you who are in the reimbursement business of health insurance rather than critical illness, you are one of the largest categories is the chronic disease patients, diabetics, hypertensives, people who have high cholesterol, so they need to take their medications continuously. They found out that actually half of the patients don't get the medication. They get the first supply, and they don't get the medications refilled. So their disease will deteriorate, definitely, whether it's due to out-of-pocket expense, which is burdening them personally. That's another question. Cancer drugs now is the big cash cow for big pharma. The other drug lines have sort of dried up. So cancer therapy, oncology drugs are now big on their agenda. This recent extensive report, actually, from the Bloomberg News, they interviewed many oncologists, notable oncologists from the US. And they noticed that actually a lot of these drugs don't really work well. They extend life for a few months, and that's it, but they cost tens of thousands of dollars. Now, they blame the FDA because why did you approve those drugs? Half of the funding from the FDA comes from pharma medical device companies. So there's a lot, it's a recipe for conflict of interest, basically, how this whole scheme is working. Another remarkable study from the US, 2023, from these two hospitals are like the meccas of oncology in New York and Vanderbilt University. And the lead authors, Dr. Aaron Mitchell and Dr. Stacy, they studied the conflict of interest and the incentives received by physicians, oncologists, while prescribing those blockbuster drugs, tens of thousands of dollars. And they've noticed that in a lot of cases, the drugs are not cost effective. They're not choosing the cheaper drug, and some of them are really irrational.
So sorry, the slides will later be shared, so just enjoy the presentation. Yeah.
Another disease entity, acute adult macular degeneration. Age-related macular degeneration. This is another entity of medications which are costly, biological, some of them, and they noticed how the linkage between the pharma payments, the incentives given to physicians, and how they prescribe. Again, if they had prescribed properly, they would have saved Medicare probably $640 million.
Okay, Dr. Amar, can you make it?
I'll do it fast.
Yeah.
This one looked at the physicians, what sort of gender is prescribing and how do they get incentivized. It seems that women across all academic fields, caliber, specialty, they really prescribe in a rational manner, appropriate manner, in an ethical manner. It's the men who are driving this craze, apparently. This is a really interesting study if you look at it in depth. I don't think it's alien to the ASEAN countries. It was done in Pakistan in detail, and they interviewed a panel of physicians, GPs, and also pharma reps. So they were asking them, what sort of incentives are you giving them? And what sort of incentives are you getting as a physician? And the array is there for you to look at. The one which really struck me was the last one. Even a daughter's dowry is paid by an insurance by a pharma company. It's a disaster, really. It's a complete disaster. The sad thing about all this is all these payments are going into pharma companies' expenses. They're the most profitable industries across the world. Besides the marketing and the sales expenses and the legal fees, this all goes into the price of the medications, which you all are paying. That's simple P&L, how it works. Looking at the settlements, legal settlements done by pharma, you will see that it's immense in the billions. This slide shows Professor Milton Friedman. He's an economist, accomplished economist. He was a Nobel Prize winner in 1976, and he highlighted the ways that you spend money. You either spend other people's money on yourself, or you spend your money on yourself or on others. Now, health insurance falls here in the lower half, which is totally uneconomical and absurd.
Really sorry.
I'll go to the point, Dr. Dayan. So, what is PBM? So, basically, PBM is it offers an electronic connection between healthcare providers, pharmacies, and payers. And that's the DNA of what MedImpact has been doing for the past 36 years. There's a rule engine, basically. It's updated with all the FDA guidelines. P&T committee guidelines about how drugs should be used, and it provides this real-time connectivity with the physicians and with the pharmacists to tell them this prescription will be approved, that prescription will be denied, and for what reason. So it's very transparent and upfront between the payer and the provider. The statistics which are gathered are immense. We've been working in the Middle East for the past 15 years, in China also. The statistics we provide about the utilization of molecules on diseases, on healthcare provider networks, and also on physicians themselves. You'll see here Dr. Prakash is the top provider in terms of these medications, and most of them are branded rather than generic. So my final message to you is really kicking the can down the road is no option. Otherwise, we'll be having these meetings year after year. Something has to be done to stem the bleeding. That's it. Thank you for your audience.
Thank you so much. A very interesting presentation. Okay, so coming back, what are we going to present in the plenary meeting? Is it that universal health coverage? How are we going to proactively engage our regulators and government? And then second, on the cost containment efforts, like the co-payment, list of simple diseases. Any comments on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think one of the things is one of the very challenge is the medical or the drug cost. Exactly just what we see in the presentation. I think Thailand is also facing up that. I mean, we have the original and then the generic.
Okay.
And if we can have the per items, meaning the list of the drug, even the generic that giving the same result, but then they had the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I mean, the different like paracetamol. You have like the 1 baht to 15 baht per each on this thing. You can see all the tail fast. You can see that from 450 to 1,500 baht. Exactly the same thing. So basically, I think what one thing is that, I mean, if we want to doing it on this thing, it need to tag along not only our regulator but also with the Ministry of Health. That I mean, okay, this is the generic, or this is the original, and then you have the tier, the range of the cost of the pricings on this thing. So what I call is the per item list of the drug on these things, you know, and that is the thing that I mean what Thailand are trying to do at this moment. Because if we dig down into under the cost, I think one of the things that I mean the medical you separate out, like the NCD is also very high on this thing, the drug for the NCDs. So basically, I mean we Thailand try to develop the range of the chart. Original one price, generic, they're going to be the tier on this thing also. And that thing need to be stamped by the regulator, not only on our regulator, but the health that it need to work along with this thing also. Okay. So that what I don't know, maybe I believe the other countries probably facing the same thing on this thing also. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So any comments to what Kunsara was saying? Do we want to put it in the plenary meeting? Yes, Pak Budi nodded his head. Okay, okay, thank you. All right, then 3 items. Okay, last one is about, sorry. Yeah, that's part of the cost containment. Yeah, co-payment.
Sorry, drugs, tariff transparency. Sarah was saying.
Yeah. Yes, transparency of price.
No one's raising problem.
Not now. Yeah. Any concerns? Maybe any suggestions about waiting period or product features of health which we want to share in the plenary?
So let me elaborate on this one. Is that does any country have issues on limitations on waiting period? I.e., let's say for critical illness, then the waiting period is not 1 year, but lesser than 1 year, like 6 months, 3 months. Any issues on this?
Yeah. So when you say do we have issues, are you saying that we What was the issues? Yes, we have issues. No, the issue is very simple. Singapore cannot have a waiting period that is fixed. So please do what you want. No such thing as all of us ganging up to say the waiting period is 90 days.
Okay. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I just wonder about what opportunity there still is to introduce DRG or something like DRG instead of fee for service, whether there's still a lot of countries that are dealing with fee for service.
That makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Okay, 4 items then. Versus DRG. Okay.
In the order of priorities. It's just like maybe because is there any such thing as clinical pathways
that is mandatorily being applied in all hospitals? So it's two things that is gonna manage our costs. Number one is clinical pathways as well, and number two is the standardized and transparency in tariff of the treatment, or as well as the medications that the patients is taking. So should we propose that we should have the same standard clinical pathways for all treatment, either covered by insurance or by healthcare of national healthcare? So can we have one clinical pathways and one tariff for all?
For all, you mean per country or in ASEAN?
For country as well as in nations, and that's the purpose why we are meeting here, right? Yeah.
I don't know. Any comments about clinical pathway? Because when I discuss about that, it's a sensitive topic and not easy to implement the same clinical pathway for everyone, right?
I think it would be difficult, Madam Chair. I'm sorry on this thing. I mean, it's very different on the price and everything on this thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Gunsara, when you said it's difficult, meaning that with the collaborations between our regulator and Minister of Health, shouldn't it be doable?
Yeah, it should be doable. I mean, if we can corrupt with our Minister of Health, and I think that is the I'm sorry to say on this thing, but then that would be something that sometimes is not aligned together. You know, we all under the Minister of Finance, mostly on this thing. And then the fact is that, I mean, I'm sorry to mention for Singapore, that Singapore might be one of the countries that really align with the KPI with all the departments of the government on this thing. But then if I'm wrong, please correct me on this thing. But then, I mean, it's depend on each country. And the fact is that's why, yes, I would support if we can do on this thing. But the fact is that, I mean, it would be super challenging to some of the environment and in each country, right, on this thing.
Madam Chair, is there any limit on how many lists of issues that we can brought into the meetings with regulator?
Usually there is no limit. It's just, yeah.
So shouldn't we be asking the big one, i.e., even if it is difficult, but it should be something that we should ask if we can have one clinical pathway for all patients and one tariff for all patients. Isn't that what we're looking for? Yes, I know it's difficult. Yeah.
Okay. I can go along with you on this thing, seriously. But the fact is that, I mean, may I ask each country that when you pricing on your tariff on this thing, I mean, you go with the portfolios and then you go with the data of the morbidities on each of your company experience on this thing, right? What happened is that, I mean, we face up with all the challenge at this moment, and we have the people that, I mean, do have individual very high claim. So one of the things is that, I don't know, it's the same as in every country, that you can increase the price individually or not on this thing, which I call is the claim-based pricing. Is that happening in each country, or if you have to increase, you increase the tariff by the portfolio? So that's one of the things. I mean, for example, like Thailand, we have to go with the portfolio, meaning that, I mean, when the portfolio reach about the claim ratio at 70%, combined ratio is 100%, we have 3 year consistent. We have a choice that we can request the OIC, the regulator, to increase the price, but it's go by the portfolio, which another sense is that it's so unfair for the people that never claim. And at the end of the day, is that they're just out of the portfolio. So we are end up with a very bad high claim portfolio. That's the thing. So what Thailand is try to talk is that, I mean, portfolio pricing is one of the things, but then, I mean, whoever have the high claim should be able to price up individually also on this thing. Okay. That's one of the point. Another thing is that, I mean, I'm not sure if Singapore is the same on this thing or not. Inflation. So medical inflation is that, I mean, I assume that you have the right to increase the price every year on the medical inflation. Is that right or not? Or on this thing. So that would sustain the price at least. Doesn't mean that the whole portfolio will lift up. It will because of the aging, on this thing. But the fact is that, I mean, portfolio then claim-based pricing for the individual who have a high claim, and also be able to increase inflations across the board, at least like 5% every year or something. Okay.
Yeah, well, my thinking is that for the plenary meeting, the issues ideally would be something common, and we can like learn and collaborate and have meaningful discussions out of it, right? So definitely on that universal health coverage, that should be one. Second, we agree on all the cost containment initiatives like co-payment, risk sharing. What else? Probably we can put the clinical pathway in that cost containment. But what I'm doubtful is that if we are going to push for the standard ASEAN clinical pathway, it would be very lengthy, right? So universal healthcare coverage, cost containment activities, drugs. I think rational drug use is good. Fee for service versus DRG. That's it, yeah. Do we agree to have that 4? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. 2 minutes before we go for lunch. This would be my last to be the chair for this committee, because based on the terms of reference, we need to change every year, right, Ibu Caroline? So any volunteers from anyone willing to chair this committee next year?
On behalf of this committee, I would like to thank Dr. Dian for chairing. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Any volunteers?
So after Indonesia, sorry,
Sure.
Dr. Dian, so that's Lao PDR. Would Lao PDR be willing to chair? Okay, next, Malaysia. Would Malaysia be willing to chair? Okay. Next to Malaysia, Myanmar is not here. Philippines?
I'm fairly new in this.
Okay. I think Singapore doesn't have a choice, yeah?
Yeah, I think like it.
How do you become not having a choice? I think Singapore does. I mean, we are going through quite a fair bit of changes as well. I think that we are managing through right now. I think even into next year, so it's going to be a little bit challenging. I think for us to, yeah.
I would say Singapore do have quite a very something that you guys handling quite well. Although that's still a challenge, but I think many countries are look on model of Singapore. I start from the deductible co-pay across the board. That's what you did, right? I mean, Ministry of Health is also involved with the MAS on this thing also. I think it would be great, seriously, if you are a share.
All right. Okay, I think okay. First and foremost, I guess I think thanks for all the support for Singapore to be chair on this. Let me have a little bit of thought and a bit of discussion. I think with the Singapore team in itself before we probably get back on this. Right.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, let's close this meeting. We can go for lunch, right? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you ครับ สวัสดีครับ
Will be served in ballroom 3. You don't have
Thank
to
you,
travel
Kuntara.
back to your hotel. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Chair Sarah and Ibu Dian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.